It's time.
It's time for a new episode of TMG.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to TMG. I'm your host, Travis Patton Sr. I enjoy discovering and sharing real-life moments of inspiration from everyday people. And this show is about finding moments of inspiration for our everyday lives. And look, and if you're going to tell me something, then tell me something good.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of TMG. I'm your host, Travis Patton Sr. Guys, don't laugh at me, right? I literally forgot to hit the button so I could come on camera. That's terrible. No funny, but guys, I'm your host, guys. Listen, you know how we like to do it here at TMG. Before I get started, I'd like to give a huge shout out to my biggest supporter and my biggest fan, my lovely wife, Nicole. Hey, girl, how you doing, Nicole? I know you're watching. I know you're listening. Guys, I say this every time, and I mean this from my heart. I'm so excited to be here, so excited that everyone is joining in today. And in a very short time, guys, this show has taken off, and it's been heard in places all around the globe. New Zealand, Canada, Japan, the Faroe Islands, Mexico. Guys, thank you. If this is your first time tuning into the show, your very first time being here, let me tell you, thank you for joining in today. And maybe you've been tuning in all this time. Thank you so much for your faithfulness. It's because of you that we continue to do this and get better and grow. Guys, I'm so excited to be here. I have a very special guest who's going to share with us tonight. I know that you can't wait to hear what she's talking about today. Guys, listen, you know that everyone knows that this show is all about finding moments of inspiration with everyday people, like you and me, like the ones who's listening. So if you have an inspiring story that you would like to share with our audience and you would like to come on the show as a special guest, please, guys, please don't forget, send me your email. It's right there on your screen. And if you're listening to this later, email address is TELME something SUMTHIM 21 at gmail.com. That's tell me something 21 at gmail.com. And guys, listen, don't forget to visit our YouTube page. That's Tell Me Something Good with the capital T. Guys, if you did not catch today's topic we're talking about, guys, is head on. Head on, guys. If you did not catch it, today's topic is head on. And I know that you might be thinking that with that topic of being head on, you might be thinking that today's title, maybe an episode that you would be talking about how to face situations face to face, right? With that topic, I know you probably said, well, we're going to talk about things about how to face situations face to face. But really, this episode is all about taking on something head on, meaning with our minds, with what's on our minds, because before we can deal with things face to face, you first have to tackle it head to head. Yeah, in other words, we first have to face our thoughts in our heads. And with our day-to-day lives becoming so busy, which may include taking care of others, it sometimes becomes easy to forget about taking care of ourselves. Everything from our physical health to our brain health and our mental health, all of these are important in helping us maintain a balanced life, as well as making those important decisions that you can help change our lives for the better. Guys, listen, our special guest is here to discuss everyday things that we can do to improve our brain health and the role it plays in help keeping a positive mindset. She's a licensed psychologist and with over 20 years of experience in the mental health field. She has focused much of her work in 3 years of psychology, like school psychology, military psychology, and forensic psychology. So let's give a warm TMG welcome, guys, to Dr. Melissa Green to the show. Dr. Green, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well.
Woohoo! I'm so glad that you're here, Dr. Green. So, Dr. Green, tell me, I know you and I have talked, you and I have had some conversations, but the audience doesn't know you like that yet. So, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Dr. Green.
Well, like you mentioned, I am a life psychologist, and this actually will be my 25th year working in the mental health field. And
25th?
one thing I think that 25th, I know. I'm also a registered yoga teacher, which is something that I came to through my work as a psychologist, right? So, but I'm originally from Georgia, but I spent most of my adult life outside of the state of Georgia. 15, after my dad was diagnosed with 2 types of neurocognitive disorders, Alzheimer's, I really have been motivated to focus my work on helping to teach people about healthy aging practices to combat.
Now that's pretty important right there, Dr. Green. That's pretty important. A lot of people with dementia sometimes they suffer silently or suffer by themselves, all because sometimes the caregiver is not prepared to deal with that, and not just to prepare to deal with what they're dealing with, but being prepared to deal with it themselves, facing it head on with the thoughts that go on in their mind, the caregiver's mind, not just the individual that's dealing with that, but those individuals who have to really sacrifice and deal with themselves. Can you still hear me, Dr. Green?
Yes, I can hear you now. I think the sound went out.
Okay, perfect. Oh, your audio went out. Well, there. That
For a
was good. I
second.
did all that wonderful talking, Dr. Green. Now,
I
I
heard
was
the
just saying
last
that
part.
a lot of times, well, I was saying that a lot of times, we're not prepared to deal with something of that nature. And what happens is it's not just that the caregiver has to deal with the person who's dealing with dementia. They also have to deal with things within themselves head on, what goes on in their mind or how to handle situations like that. And whether it's you're a caregiver with someone with dementia or you're dealing with a child who has something with them or anything in life, we have to tackle things head on, meaning we have to deal sometimes with the thoughts in our own mind in order to face those situations the right way.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, guys, listen, you know Dr. Green, she's 25 years in experience. You've seen a lot, you've heard a lot, you've done a lot, Dr. Green. And you said, I know you and I talked, you said you did child psychology, military psychology. That was the one that really caught me, said military psychology. And so those are something, can you expound a little on what do you do in those things to try to help individuals who have to deal with things, as I said, head on or within their minds?
So, primarily, what a clinical psychologist does more generally is helping people to identify any problematic patterns of thinking that might be interfering with their day to day functioning, and help them to find ways to maybe shift their thinking, because sometimes thoughts are distorted, right? People always say, don't believe your thoughts, right? 'Cause sometimes they're not true, and many times they're not true. But
Exactly.
our thoughts usually fuel everything else that's in our actions. And so, more generally, that's what clinical psychologists typically do. But I've worked in some more unique settings. I did testing for special education eligibility. And then
Oh, wow.
in the military, I did more combat trauma thing. When I worked in forensics, I did competency to stand trial evaluation. So a wide range of things that I try to help people to improve the quality of their lives.
Wow, that's incredible, guys. Dr. Green, so I know you've seen a lot. There's probably a situation that had to come up that you haven't seen. So over the years of experience, Dr. Green, that you've had, I'm sure, like I said, there's been much discussion over brain health. Now, will you please share with us kind of what does that actually mean? They run commercials about it, they talk about it. What exactly is brain health?
So when I talk about brain health, I'm talking about your brain functioning in different domains, such as your cognitive thinking, your ability to think and problem solve and reason, and your memory and learning. Also, your motor skills, your behaviors, your social and emotional functioning. So there's a wide range of things that fall within that domain.
Okay. So so no matter what it is, whether it's cognitive thinking or whatever, it all plays a part in how we think and the way we process information. Am I correct? Let me ask you this question, and this is just me. I'm gonna. How important is our brain health, kind of in terms of making everyday decisions, and things like how we view ourselves and the inevitable part of aging that we all will face?
So that's sort of a two-part health and decision
I
making,
know it is.
separately related to brain health and aging. So when you think about brain health and decision, is extremely important in making everyday decisions. If you have deficits in cognitive functioning, meaning your, again, ability to learn, and then your thought process might not be logical, or your thoughts might not be coherent. They may not make sense, right? And
Correct.
you may use judgments because your foundation is not solid, right? Faulty thinking. So that, in that respect, is very important. When you think about also in general, there are some studies out there that looks at that we think about aging and how our aging process, and it's really pretty phenomenal to me. The research suggests that, if we have, then we're less likely to develop certain types of medical conditions, and process will really be better for us in the long run. And if we have more negative age beliefs, with that dread and
Yeah.
gloom and, oh my gosh,
I'm
I'm getting
afraid to get
old,
there and all those different things.
right. And if we attribute all of our problems to aging, sometimes something that would have happened 30, we might not attribute it to aging, but if we're 50, we might say, oh, that's because I'm getting old, when it may or may not be the case. But if we start to attribute every problem that we have to aging, then our thinking is going to be skewed in that way. And it actually has an effect on us physiologically, and it makes us more vulnerable to developing certain types of diseases and medical conditions. So I think that's something that I just recently learned more about, and I think it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. Hold on, Dr. Green. I'm not going to let you escape with saying that now. You mean tell me the way or my perspective on aging, how I view aging, can negatively impact me or positively impact me?
Correct, correct. There's actually there was a study that was done where they compared people's age beliefs to what their physical health condition was
Right.
like. And I think it was an average of 7.5 years that people lived longer who had positive age beliefs. So
Mm-hmm.
it definitely has a significant impact on your health. And sometimes we don't even realize that we have negative age beliefs because we're bombarded with all of this stimuli, all of these
Exactly.
images, all this anti-aging, stuff that
Oh,
we
yeah.
learn about from very early on, right? And especially women, right? So I always say that I'm proud to be 51, right? Because that's one thing. I've always said my age proudly, but now I know there's a benefit to doing so, right?
Wow, wow. So, guys, listen to what Dr. Green is saying. She's saying, and we talk about perspectives and beliefs, and a lot of times, and I mentioned earlier that you're going to help kind of shed some light on some positive talk, um, and positive perspective on things. Not that everything is going to be great. Not that every day is going to be, you're going to spring out the bed like you did when you were 18 or 16, but having a different perspective of how we view ourselves, right? Guys, having and developing a different perspective of how we view ourselves pays off in the long run. Is what I'm hearing, Dr. Green. We may not say, well, this is not working for me, this is not helping me, but the way we see ourselves, guys, the way we see ourselves eventually pays off in the long run.
If you see your aging as positive.
Oh, so that's the caveat. I have to stop seeing so many negative things about it and saying, well, I'm getting older. That's just my age. And that's just my age showing. As they all, that saying, it's my age is showing. How we view ourselves plays a huge part later on in our lives. And we talk about, and I'm a firm believer in positive perspective and saying things positive to yourself every day. I believe we should wake up every day and start saying something positive, regardless of what happened in that day, because it helps your brain to begin to look for something positive. When we start saying things positive, our brain will start finding something positive throughout the entire day. And you know what? I actually saw one of your interviews. You actually said the very same thing. I was like, look at here, I might be on the right track with something. And it's important, Dr. Green, that we as individuals, from my hearing, it's important that we pay attention to how we think and how we process, and it plays a part in our brain health. And it also plays a part in how we see and how we develop as individuals.
Right. It plays a part in our physical health or our medical conditions as well as our psychological health. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really important. So, guys, I'm already learning something. I know you are too. I'm already learning the change. Make sure we adjust our perspectives about aging, about who we are, and things like that. Guys, before we continue, I got to do this real quick. You know that this show, also one of my sponsors, is Walmart. Guys, do me a favor. There will be a link in the chat. I'm going to place a link in the chat. I want you to use that link, and you don't have to pay me anything. You don't have to give me a dime. But I do want you to do what you normally do. Go shopping. Yeah, go shopping. Buy something at Walmart. But when you do, I want you to use this link that I'm placing in chat. When you do use this link, look at my disclaimer. I may earn a commission when you buy through this link. So I don't want you to say, well, he didn't tell me. Listen, I don't want you to give me a penny. I just want you to go ahead and click on this link and do what you normally do, guys. So do that for me, please. I placed that link in the chat. So visit Walmart, guys, if you will, and it'll help everybody out. So, Dr. Green, back to what we were talking about. Now, I'm a firm believer in positive talk. I believe in it. I really do. And you just kind of confirmed a lot of things in my mind, that how important it is. People think, well, you're just saying magic. No, they're not. It's not magic words. It actually has an actual effect on our physical bodies, our minds, so we aren't able to take things head on, so to speak. We aren't facing it in the right mind frame. You know, a lot of times we want to say, well, I'm going to handle this thing face to face. Before you try to handle it face to face, we need to take it head on. We need to make sure our thoughts, our minds are right, our thinking is correct. So I'm a firm believer in positive talk for those reasons, and replaying or rehearsing positive aspects of things. Now, it does not mean, of course, like I said, everything goes well for us each day or how we hoped it would. But it does mean we can try to find some positive aspects of things. So I understand that there's a lot to be said about positive psychology. And I know that. I appreciate that. How does this play a part in our practical lives? What are some tips that you can kind of share with us?
So, first, let me explain to people what positive psychology is. Sometimes people hear that and they think this is just being happy all the time, but that's
Yeah,
not.
right.
You're right. And being delusional, we're not encouraging people to be delusional, but positive psychology is actually a subfield of psychology that focuses on the things that make life more meaningful and things that help people to thrive versus just survive. And historically, in the field of psychology, the focus was always on psychopathology or helping people to deal with their suffering and their emotional distress, and that's helpful and that's good, but all of the work and the research have been slanted in that way. So more recently, the field of positive psychology started to shift to look at like what goes on with people who are doing well, right? What's
Correct.
going on in their lives that is helping them to excel in life and to be happy. And through that, excuse me, through that research, they learned about some things that we could use. We meaning everybody, but psychologists particularly can use to help people to improve their lives. One of the things that the field of positive psychology focuses on is identifying what they call character strengths, right? So there are certain strengths or personality strengths that we all have that based on the research in positive psychology that across all cultures across the globe are common, right? And there are 24 of those character strengths, and some of them are more suitable for certain people, and some are,
Right,
other people
right.
have strengths in those areas. And so what positive psychologists would say is that you need to identify what your character strengths are, particularly your top ones. And if you're using those like in your relationships or in your work, then you're going to feel like you're living a more purpose-driven or
Correct.
meaningful life, which is going to lead to you being happier. So that's a summary of the positive psychology field, right? So we're looking at how to help people go from their baseline up versus typically when a person comes to see a psychologist, they're below their baseline, right? So if their
Mm,
baseline is zero, they're below that and they're just trying to work to get back up to baseline. And so
wow.
positive psychology is saying, okay, you may not be struggling right now, but what can we help you to do to get better from where you are. So
Absolutely. Guys, listen, this is amazing stuff because what this does, Dr. Green, it allows us to look at ourselves and say, hey, you know what? Um, everything doesn't have to go well or be well or perfect. Everything doesn't have to be perfect for me to think positively. And I think a lot of times we want things to be perfect, or we say, well, it has to be perfect in order for me to think positive. Everything has to go just the way I plan it for it to be positive. And from what you're telling me, Dr. Green, it doesn't have to be that way for me to take it head on.
right. Well, I mean, it's impossible. That everything is not perfect for anybody, regardless of what you
Exactly.
see on social media. Social media oftentimes is not real. Well, people, not that it's not real, but people share their highlights. They don't share their bad days most of the time. Some
Eh,
people do, right? That it's their highlight reel, what people typically
exactly.
say. So, when you're comparing yourself to those things that people are sharing, oftentimes it can make you feel inadequate. Can make people
Correct.
feel inadequate. But just acknowledging those things that are going well to balance
Exactly.
out what's not going well, because we are going to have bad days and things not go right, and all
Oh,
of
yeah.
that, right? That's reality. But if you're building on your character strengths, and you're building on your resilience and your ability to bounce back when you do have those things come up. So
I like to say what you see on social media a lot of time is like a movie trailer. Have you ever seen a movie trailer and it interests you? You go, oh, I gotta go see that movie, and then you see the movie and you're like, what in the world was that? That's not what I saw. And what happens is we build our lives based on movie trailers. If this person looks like they're succeeding at doing something, and we'll compare ourselves to that trailer, and we'll say, oh, if my life isn't perfect unless I'm doing that, or if I'm looking like that, or why they are so happy on social media. And guys, it's a movie trailer. Do you not know that they just will film just the trailer part and show it to you just to entice you? Everything we deal with in life, and sometimes we face and compare ourselves to, it's just a trailer, Dr. Green. And we can't, as you said, we can't build our lives based on a 30-second movie clip. And when we scrolling on social media, we'll see 10 seconds of something and we say, okay, my life is terrible. I suck. I don't feel really good about myself. And then they would go back to that negative talk. And you just mentioned earlier how it begins to affect us, not just mentally, but physically.
right.
Physical health begins to get impacted by that.
Right. And not even just comparing yourself to other people. Sometimes people feel that way when they're just looking at their own lives, and they have, like one bad day
Exactly.
or one bad moment, and then it's all bad. And you have to help. Well, I say you as a psychologist, we have to help people to put things in perspective.
A
This might
different
be
perspective.
something that happened that took up what 1 or 2% of your life, and you're judging your life based on that. And
That was good right there, Dr. Green. That was good.
write that
That
one
was
down.
good. Yeah, I know, right? I'm writing that. That was a good one. Guys, did you catch that? Go ahead, Dr. Green.
But it's true. Oftentimes, people they forget all of the other accomplishments that they have in their lives, and that all the great things that are going on. And sometimes they just need a reminder, right? And
Exactly.
so sometimes we're comparing ourselves, to not just other people, but we're looking at things that maybe things went well for a long time in our lives, and then we have one time we expect that things would not happen in that way. And so then some people may say, oh, my whole life is falling apart, but when in reality it's not. So I like to teach people to identify anchor points for things
Mm,
that are really relaxing and stressful, and using a scale of 1 to 10. And for things that are so things on one end are relaxing, on the other end they're stressful, and the 10 would be the things that are most distressing that you've ever experienced in your life. And whenever they have, a bad day, a bad moment, or whatever it is, then they use that scale or those anchor points as a basis of comparison. So,
Right.
So for instance, if your 10 is having a death in the family, like for me, my 10 would be losing my mother.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a bad day and just say, I don't know, I lose my car keys or something, I don't know. It's not really a 10 when because I can just go, well, I can find my other car key, or I can go and get another when
Exactly.
made, right? Somebody who's really problematic and slanted towards, that negative thinking may
Mm-hmm.
the worst thing that ever happened. Okay, look at this scale.
Wow.
Where does that rank on that scale of 1 to 10 when you compare it to losing your mother? Is that really a 10, or that's just, annoying, right? Like, is that like a 5 or 6?
Exactly. What you're doing now, Dr. Green, you're helping a lot of people who's listening, because a lot of us, everyday lives, things can happen where, let's say, we could lose a pen, or we lose a pencil, lose a car keys, can't find my shoes, can't find our wallets, our purses, and the whole day could be thrown off. The whole day, like, what's annoying me right now? My light behind me is not acting right, and it's a 1 for me. It would have been a 10 years ago, but it's a 1. And I've learned, and I'm listening to what you're saying, like, man, she is so on it, because we just have to scale ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps us in how we think. It helps us in how we perceive things. And as I mentioned earlier, I just got to keep saying this. It helps us be able to take things head on, with the right frame of mind, the right thinking, taking that time to take things head on instead of trying to face. It really gives us the advantage. Is what I'm hearing, Dr. Green. It puts us in an advantageous spot when we're dealing with individuals, as you mentioned, caregivers for those who have Alzheimer's. Whether you're going to work and it's frustrating, your children, your spouse relation, it doesn't matter. It gives us an advantage going into it when we take time to face things head on, instead of just, I'm going to face to face, meaning my emotions.
Correct. Right. We like to talk about something called wise mind. So there's the emotional mind,
Mm-hmm.
which we need our emotions. They're there to keep us safe. Really, it's an alarm that there's a
Exactly.
potential for danger. But sometimes we get a flood with our emotions, and when you're flooded with your emotions, then you're not thinking logically typically, because a different part of the brain has taken over, but you hijacked. And then there is the rational mind, right,
Right.
where you're not necessarily showing a lot of emotion, and too much of either of those is not really a good thing, right? Because you got to have a little bit of emotion. You don't want to be completely cut off and all rational mind. You don't want to be emotional mind, but right there in the middle is a good mix of both, and that's what we call wise mind. So try to operate in wise mind as much as possible, right? We all get outside of that every now and then, but you have to bring yourself back, right?
We have to go fishing for ourselves. So,
Yes.
yeah, guys, I don't know too about. I know that everyone's listening is enjoying it. Dr. Green, you're helping us out so much, helping us so much. So let me ask you a question. That being said, so is it possible to begin to shift our moods by intentionally addressing our minds, by creating a better brain health?
Well, when I'm thinking about brain health, I am a part of that is the social emotional function, meaning your psychological functioning, and that definitely needs to be intact. Your ability to manage stressors, because
Correct.
that helps with brain health. Because if you're constantly flooded with emotion and those stress hormones and cortisol, it's it's good for you in short bursts, right? When you need it, when you need to act
Right.
quickly. But if you're constantly feeling stressed, then it's that chronic stress, and you're flooded with those stress hormones, and that can have a negative impact on your ability to think and understand what's going on, and to act appropriately, use good judgment, and ultimately that can have a negative impact on your physical health. So there's definitely a mind body connection, which, I mean, I think everybody recognizes that now, but there was a point in time where people looked at both of those things very separately.
Mm. Wow, wow. Listen, so let me ask you this. What advice, Dr. Green, what advice can you provide to the audience about steps they can take about moving forward with changing some habits to promote good brain health? Are there some things that we can do in our everyday life when we wake up that we can do to do these things?
Well, there are several things, but I'll just talk about a couple of them. One thing is just moving more frequently, and it's not necessarily that you have to go run a marathon, but just frequent moving, getting up throughout the day, doing stretches, uh, substituting, getting on the elevator for walking up the stairs or parking further away, all the things that we've heard, but there's research to support that
Hmm.
helps with longevity, being more mobile and more physical, and you don't have to do very strenuous exercise. I think that's one thing that people often think, that I have to go in there and really just do something very intense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you like to do that, I'm sure that's great. But just moving, have movement breaks. That's important.
Right, right.
Another thing that I think that could be helpful for people getting back a little bit to the positive psychology, which feeds into having good well-being and social emotional functioning. I
Hmm.
think your audience should really go to the University of Pennsylvania Authentic Happiness website, and I can give that to you at some point if you
Yes.
want to share that with them. And there are a lot of quizzes and things that they can look at, and they could take. But there is one that actually helps you to identify what your character strengths are. And again, these are things that through the positive psychology research that they have found across the globe to be common across people across the globe. So it's not just the U.S. population
Oh,
has
wow.
these
Oh, wow.
characters. This is these are things that they've seen to be present, and it will help you to identify what your top 5 strengths are. And once you identify those, then you can start to find ways to implement them in your life. So, for instance, for me, one of the things that is a strength for me is expressing gratitude, and I try to do that as much as possible. And again, it's one of those things that you have to sometimes you have to do to help to put things in perspective when you're thinking, oh, everything is going wrong, but really everything is not going wrong. So, simple way to start to express gratitude, which this is something that there's another, I know I keep referencing research studies, but there is another research study that
That's good, though.
yeah, where people they were asked to write down things that they were grateful for a period of 6 weeks, once a week, for a period of 6 weeks. And they saw a significant boost in their happiness and their
Wow.
mood,
Wow.
right? So,
Wow.
so that's one way you could do it, or you can do what they call 3 good things. You can pick 1 or 2 days a week. Interestingly enough, what they found is that when people did it like 3 times or more, it was not as effective as when they did it once a week, right? So do it 1 or 2 times a week, and you can either write down 5 things, or do 3 things that you're grateful for. And it doesn't have to be, I got my dream job. It could be, oh, I was, like for me, somebody opened the door for me when I was going into the store. That was a
Right.
nice thing, a nice gesture. It can be small things, but like you mentioned earlier, we do have a tendency to focus on, we have a negative bias, right? And that's there for safety. Our
protection. Exactly.
nervous system is constantly scanning the environment for any threats or
Possible
potential
threats.
threats.
Exactly.
Right. So if we see one thing that seems to be a little bit off, or it might be dangerous or make us uncomfortable, then we're going to build on that. And it's
correct.
a protective measure, right? But we have to temper that with some reality. Sometimes, there are a lot of other things that are going on that are good things, things that we're grateful for, people that we're grateful for, relationships, and that kind
Exactly. So what she's saying, guys, is this: don't believe every bump in the night that you hear. Just because we hear a bump in the night, because listen, we will believe what we tell ourselves more than anyone else that speaks to us. If we tell ourselves what this, losing our keys has ruined our day, then we will believe that, and we will act upon that, and we will have a physical characteristic of that. And we'll walk around upset. I lost my keys. Well, now you're angry for the entire day. Dr. Green, all right, so tell us, if someone wanted to get in contact with you, by the way, I went to your website and I downloaded that cheat sheet that you have
okay.
on there.
Yes, good.
I downloaded that cheat sheet. I like that cheat sheet. It's good. If you want to know what the cheat sheet is, you're going to have to go to Dr. Green's website. You're going to have to go to the website. You're going to say, well, Travis, I don't know Dr. Green's website. Well, if you give me a minute, I'm going to put it in chat. Jeez. Her website is here, guys. Let me give it to you real quick. I'm going to throw it here in chat. Go and get this cheat sheet and take it. You're going to enjoy it. There. Click on that link. You could do it now. You could do it after the show. Doesn't matter. But I want you to go to Dr. Green's site. If they want to get in contact with you, how can we do that? Are you on social media? How can we reach you?
Yeah, the best way is probably to contact me on Instagram.
Okay.
Go to Instagram. It's Dr.Melgreen, and all of my contact information is on there.
Fantastic. And I'm going to put that Instagram information in chat as well, so that everyone that's watching, everyone that goes back and watch and listen can see that. There it is, popping up right there in chat. Guys, click on that. We know you're on social media because you're here on Facebook. So you're probably on Instagram too. So go there, check it out. Dr. Green, you helped us. Thank you. I want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank our very special guest today, guys, Dr. Melissa Green, for joining us today. Guys, listen, Dr. Green, do you have anything to say in parting to our listeners that are watching and those that come on and listen?
I guess the last thing that I'll say for brain health is socialization. So go out and have fun with people.
So being around people is healthy. Yeah. So being around people you like is healthy for guys. Do you not hear this? Being around people you like is healthy for your brain. I can't make this stuff up, guys. Today's guys, we talked about facing things head on. And no, we're not talking about facing things face to face or with our emotions, but we're talking about dealing with facing things, guys, how we think before we react, and being able to think of those things, to face those things with a positive mindset, and a positive outlook will help us physically later on. It builds us up healthily as we age and as we go on. Guys, listen. So glad to be here. Listen, you know how we do it, guys. It's that time. I gotta get out of here, but guys, it's that time, and as always, it's been a real blast. So don't forget to visit our YouTube page, guys. That's Tell Me Something Good with the capital T, and don't forget to tune in right here each Thursday at our time, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, guys, and listen to the show. And you can stream the show on your favorite episodes on your favorite streaming platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pandora Music, Amazon Music, and so many more. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Green, for joining us. And as always, imparting, if you're going to tell me something, then tell me something good. And before I get out of here, I got to do this. If I don't do this, Dr. Green, they'll tell me. So here we go. Guest show on the show, guys.